So there's many tips for IELTS, and you've probably heard a lot of them, but I have chosen 10 of the best tips to give you because I think they're very important for the IELTS test, and I don't think that many students know about them. One of my tips does include new words. Now, new words, every student I've ever met worries about new words. Well, I'm here to tell you not to worry about new words, and in these tips, I will tell you. So the first tip, though, that I want to give is paraphrasing. My question to all of you, where do you live? Where do you live?
I'm living in Hanoi, it's the capital of Vietnam. This is the beautiful city is the best city I have seen.
Ask me where I live.
Let's visit.
I'm living right now in Hanoi, but my hometown is in Leeds. My answer was shorter than yours, but my answer is a higher band score. Why? Anybody know why? I'll tell you why. Because natural English is the speaking test of IELTS. Writing, reading, and listening are all academic, but this one is it's non-academic. It's just like speaking to your friends. It's just like speaking to your family, but not in Vietnamese, in English. So, you ask me, where do you live? If I said, I live in Hanoi, which is the capital of Vietnam. It is in the north of Vietnam. It's a very beautiful city, and there's a lot of people who live there. There are many beautiful trees, and there are many rivers, and no native speaker will ever answer that question like that. Now, your answer was not too bad. It was quite short. Okay? If somebody asks me, hey, Paul, where do you live? I'm living in Hanoi. That's it. That's all I give. That's my answer. So, if that's my natural answer, that's what the examiner wants to hear. The question is, where do you live? What tense is that? Present simple. My answer. How did I answer? I'm living in Hanoi. I changed the tense. I'm showing the examiner I can use the present continuous and I can change his question. If he asks me, hey Paul, where are you living now? What would I say? I live in Hanoi. He asks me present continuous, I answer present simple. He asks me present simple, I answer present continuous. That's how you do it. If you can do that in part 1, you're already on your way to a good band score for speaking. So, if you can paraphrase those questions like that, it shows the examiner your level of English. But if you answer, where do you live? I live in Hanoi. It's his language. You're just repeating what he's saying, and he needs to give you a band score for your language, not his. Okay, guys? The next tip, phrasal verbs and collocations. Phrasal verbs, for example, catch a bus, have a headache, I've got a headache. What's on your mind is a collocation. Those collocations, what band score do you think they are? These are 7.5 to an 8. Because if you can use these like I use them, it shows your level of English is very close to a native speaker. And that is what he wants to hear. He doesn't want big academic words. So, my next tip. Final sound and intonation. Now, pronunciation is 25% of your IELTS band score. Now, Vietnamese language does not have final sounds such as the S or the ED. If you cannot say that and he doesn't hear it, he gives you a low band score for pronunciation. He has to hear those final sounds. How you can do that is easy. If you speak to each other in English, and every time your partner does not say the final S or Z or id or D or T sound for past, you give him a card. If you have 100 cards after speaking after 2 minutes, you need to practice. The more you practice, the better you get. So after 50 times of practicing this, you will be able to say the S, ED endings, the past tense, perfectly. And that will improve your band score. Now, the other thing is, those words there, intonation. Some of my students, they try to speak academically. Okay, that's not natural. Okay? What's your favorite food? My favorite food is fruit. What's your favourite? Where's your favourite place? My favourite place. Don't repeat his question. Okay? You use these, for example, Mr. Paul, what's your favourite food? Oh, I really love pho. Okay? Which food don't you like? I can't stand. Actually, I like all food. Now, when I say that, I don't go, I like beef. No, feeling. He wants to see feeling. He wants to know that you know what these words mean. So you have to say, I really love beef. I mean, I just love it. That's band score 9. That feeling puts up your pronunciation band score. Not many students know it, but that's how we speak English. And he wants you to speak English like a native. If you can speak English like a native with that intonation, really like, can't stand, see it in your eyes. I don't want to see I really love it. I want to see I really love it. I can't stand this. Intonation is 25% of your band score. You tell him that you really hate it. He gives you a higher band score. You tell him that you adore it, you love it. He gives you a higher band score. Next tips, please. You're all worried about new words. And I had a student come up to me, Mr. Paul, I took the IELTS test. I used so many academic words. I used so many big words, but I only got a band score 5.5 for my speaking. I said to them, did you use the past tense? No. That's why you got 5.5. You forget the past tense, and it's difficult for you. For example, walk, walked. Stop, stopped. Need, needed. Okay, answer, answered. Those are what he's looking for. If he doesn't hear them, he thinks you cannot talk about the past tense. Irregular verbs, go, went, become, became, say, said. You guys use the present tense to talk about the past. He asks you questions like, what did you do yesterday? He doesn't care what you did yesterday. The examiner doesn't care. Don't just focus on your vocab. Focus on your verbs and your pronunciation, because he's listening for it. Next one. Mixed tense. The only way to do this is to practice. So if you have a question that says, tell me something you learnt about and what you learn about now, you have to go into the past, using the past tense. You have to use past tense verbs, then come back in to the present tense and use present tense to talk about now. If you can do that, you're showing the examiner you can jump to the past and use all the verb tenses in the past, correct with pronunciation, then come back to the present and use them correctly. For example, instead of became, we can use become. If you can do that, that's high band score.
iBest bring you Cambridge Standard.